So again, I'd like to thank everybody for getting on today. Before we get started, I'm going to read our disclaimer. The WildTech DC Senior iPad program, its owners and presenters offer technical assistance, virtual health, well-being information designed for educational purposes only. You cannot rely on the information in any applications or topics made by WildTech, including but not limited to mobile and device applications, and any social media pages maintained by the WildTech DC Senior iPad program, its owners or presenters as a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, treatment, or legal advice. Thank you so much for letting me read the disclaimer. So yes, again, thanks so much for being understanding
Alex.
today. Yes, hey Wanda, and we hope that this conversation on advanced directives will be useful to you. So again, we'd like to thank Miss Yaischa Dukes, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, a board-certified family nurse practitioner to share information on advanced directives. An advanced directive is a legal document that allows individuals to express their wishes regarding medical treatment and healthcare decisions in the event that they become unable to communicate or make decisions for themselves due to illness, injury, or other circumstances. So Ms. Dukes is going to present more information on that. And again, we want to thank her for getting on today. So can you hear us, Ms. Dukes?
Yes, can everyone hear me?
Yes, yes. How's it going?
Good, how are you? I'm sorry, I'm losing my voice a little bit, but I hope everyone is doing well.
It's okay. Great, great. Did I pronounce your name right?
Yeah, pretty good. Yaischa, it's Yaischa.
Okay. What would you prefer us to call you?
Whatever makes you comfortable. You can call me Yaischa, you can call me Miss Dukes.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for that. We just want to make sure that we're saying, you know, what you prefer. Last but not least, before you get started, would you like for folks just to chip in for questions, or would you rather folks raise their hands in Zoom to answer questions at the end? What would you prefer?
No, if anyone has a question, I have no problem. You can just stop me and we'll try and address it then.
Okay, well, thank you so much for that, and I look forward to your presentation. Yeah, so you can go ahead and share your screen if you'd like, and
Sure.
again, just make sure everyone has their TVs and cell phones silenced to the best of your ability. Thank you so much.
So I had actually made a PowerPoint, and my PowerPoint has subsequently crashed. So what I'm going to do is I can share my screen. I have a website that I think is pretty important for everyone. While I'm getting that situated, I just want to make sure, has everyone or ever heard of the term advanced directives before? Do you know what that means?
Yes, I have, Miss Dukes. Actually, I was taking care of my mom. She lived with me before she passed, and I was going back and forth to the doctor with her, and they gave me the paperwork to complete for the advance directive. We completed it and turned it in back to her doctor. You know, we went over it, asked her questions. You know, she expressed her wishes, so I'm very familiar with it.
Great. Can everybody?
Yep, I can see your screen.
Okay.
Thank you.
So great. So for those who are not familiar with an advanced directive, it's just a fancy way to say that you have put your wishes in writing. And why is this important? It's important for everyone. I have an advanced directive. My husband had advanced directives. We're in our 40s. I have friends in their 30s who have their advanced directives. So this is important for anyone. You know, the technical definition is it's a form that tells your medical providers what kind of medical care you want. You would think that that is an easy answer and kind of like a no-brainer, but it's not. Um, I always say to my patients, what's right for me isn't always what's right for you or what's right for your neighbor, right? And so as we progress through life, whether we've been blessed with an extremely healthy and long life, or whether we've had some medical difficulties along the way, everyone's idea of happy, healthy, and normal is different, right? And so sometimes when we get to a point in our medical journey, we know that we maybe don't want to continue to have to go to the hospital, or maybe we don't want to have surgeries anymore, or maybe we don't want to do a certain treatment anymore. We just want to focus on ourselves, our being our happiest and healthiest. Then it's a good idea to put these kinds of things in writing. An example I can give is maybe someone who has end stage heart failure, right? And so, unfortunately, that's what's called a terminal diagnosis, meaning there's not really a good cure for that. And what we're trying to do, the treatments available are to try and prolong how long we can keep your heart functioning appropriately and keep you happy and healthy. But unfortunately, there'll come a time where those treatments just are not working anymore. And so when that time comes, it's important to know what you would want your death to look like, right? Or what you would want your end to look like. And those words sound scary. Death, dying, but we're all going to get there, right? And nobody knows the day or hour. So it's important, if you have the opportunity to kind of explain what you would hope for, then you should have them in writing. Death should be celebrated as much as birth in this country and every country. Um, Advanced directives they come in many forms. Some of the most common is called a living will. And I actually want to share a copy of this right here. This is from MedStar, one of the bigger hospitals there. This is a copy of, it's called, you see, Advanced Directive, living will. And essentially, the very first part will say, who is my durable power of attorney for healthcare? That means that you have designated a person to speak for you if you were unable to speak to us, us being your medical team, right? I'll be honest, in the state of DC, I'm not exactly clear what the hierarchy is if there's nothing in writing. For instance, I live in Florida. The statutes state that if you have nothing in writing, your first by law, the first person to make decisions for you is your spouse, right? I love my husband dearly and I trust him implicitly, but he doesn't always understand some of the medical terminology. And so I actually have in my advanced directives that I want him to work with a very good friend of mine who's also a nurse practitioner, so she can help explain some of the things that are going on so they can work together and make a good decision for me based on my thoughts and wishes, right? And so that's not a jab against any of your loved ones. It's just that person might not be able to handle that or might not be able to process the information. If you're not married, or your spouse is not living or not able, in the instance of a spouse that maybe is critically ill themselves or has advanced dementia, in Florida, then it goes to children. Now, for instance, in Virginia, that law says that it's the oldest child that makes decisions. In Florida, it is the majority of your adult children. So if you have 10 kids, guess what? At least 8 of them need to agree. And you can imagine how that can cause some problems, especially when we're talking about critical illness or traumatic events or medical emergencies. It's also difficult from the hospital standpoint to have to get on the phone with 8 different people when minutes and seconds matter, right? I'll pause there. Any questions? That was a lot that I kind of said right there. Okay.
We've got Thomas, whose hand has been raised. Go ahead, Thomas.
Mhm.
Unmute, Thomas.
Hi.
Hi.
I wanted to know, I had a living will done, about 8 years ago. Many things have changed since I did the first living will. Advisable for me to go and have another one done?
Absolutely. That's a great point, Thomas. Thank you for bringing that up. So these documents don't have an age limit, right? But like Thomas said, things change, right? Sometimes things change year to year. And in the past 3 years, a lot of things have changed and a lot of viewpoints have changed. So if you have any change that you want to make, maybe the person who's making decisions for you, or your thoughts and feelings on what you would want for yourself, you absolutely should revise your document. Also, I think I want to take this time to make sure that you know that just having the document is amazing, but make sure that the people important to you, like the person who's named as your decision maker, your primary care physician, and anyone involved in your medical care, have copies of the updated document. Um, one of the rules actually in the state of Florida is if you have a document stating that I don't think you that I want to be placed on the life support machine. Like let's say my heart stops, my breathing stops, and I think, hey,
No.
I've had a great life. I don't want I don't want you to come in and press on my chest and put me on that machine. You actually have to have the paper plastered onto your refrigerator, because if the 911 people come in and you don't have that paper, doesn't matter what you say or what your family says, they're gonna do everything. I think I see another hands up, Miss Ann.
Basically, that was you answered one of the questions. I just recently did a will, and it gave my power of attorney. I know that there's a difference. And do you suggest that I also have an advance directive?
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, you guys are asking amazing questions. So I'm glad you brought that up. Basic wills and power of attorneys, you need to be careful with, because some people have gone through the trouble of getting that done and think everything is a-okay. A basic power of attorney is usually only for financials, and unless it explicitly states that there's someone in there who can that person can make healthcare decisions, then it doesn't matter. It's null and void. So I always suggest, even if you have a will and you have a power of attorney, you need a durable power of attorney, or what's called a healthcare surrogate advance directive. And this is specifically for your medical care. It doesn't matter. It doesn't talk about finances, who will pay the bill. It doesn't make that person that you name financially liable for your medical care. Excuse me. It's just allowing them to, one, get information from the medical staff, because we've all heard of HIPAA by now. And if you haven't, that's the Healthcare Portability and Information Act. It basically protects you from your
So,
healthcare
any
information
lawsuit, yeah.
being kind of broadcast to everyone. So it allows that person to get information, which is important, particularly if the person that you want to make decisions for you isn't like blood relation to you or married.
Mm-hmm.
um and then it allows that person to make decisions for you, and it can be from as little as consenting for you to have a minor procedure, a major procedure, all the way to what we talk about end of life decisions, meaning, do you want to be put on the life support machine, the ventilator? Do you want to be there indefinitely? Do you not want to be placed on there, or do you want to be taken off? And what kind of comfort options you would want at that point in time. Does that answer your question?
That does, and part of the will does have part of my medical stuff in it, but I'm thinking that I'm going to do a advanced directive too, just to make sure that my wishes are carried out. Now,
I mean,
should the hospital or your doctor have a copy of this?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Every
Okay.
time you go to a hospital, you should have a copy. If you've been there and given them an updated copy, it should already be on file. Your
Okay.
doctor should have a copy, and any kind of specialist that you go to regularly should have a
Mm-hmm.
copy of it.
Okay. And
Yes.
should you should each, like the heart doctor and the primary doctor, each one of them should have a copy.
Yes, it's a good idea.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I'm sorry I asked so many questions, but
No, I welcome these questions. And in fact,
I
I don't know if you can see this. This is from MedStar. This is just a basic, it talks about the durable power of attorney, and then it talks about your wishes, what you do or do not want. Um, some of there's a few basic um headlines, I would say, that
mm-hmm.
advanced directive will talk about. So it's if you want aggressive resuscitation. So that means you had some sort of acute event, your heart stopped, your breathing stopped. They want to know, do you want us to come and pound on your chest, do electric shock, put you on the machine, or do you not want that? And I'll take a moment to kind of clarify what that looks like, if anyone's not ever had any kind of experience with that. So CPR and resuscitation efforts is not like how you see on TV. It's pretty brutal.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we usually press down on your chest about 2.5 inches, right? So I'll bring a pen so you can see. So about that far on your chest, 100 to 120 times a minute. So frequently we will break your ribs. Um, we may or may not use electric shock. There'll be some drugs that they do to try and restart your heart. And it is or is not necessarily successful. Um, Technically, if you need that kind of support, that means that you technically died and we're trying to bring you back, right? So it's not going to always necessarily work. And then after the fact, depending on how long we have been trying to do that, there may be some problems after the fact. If you say, "Oh, I don't know that I would want that," um, that doesn't mean that we make you suffer, right? That it's not an all
Right.
or a nothing kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing. If you say, "Oh, I don't think I would want that," then the focus at that point would immediately be you being comfortable, right? So meaning that we're not going to cure what's happening, but we would make sure that whatever you're feeling, like, we don't want you to feel like you're drowning or struggling to breathe. We don't want you hurting. We're going to make sure that you're as comfortable as possible for whatever time you have left. Okay. I just want to always make sure when people are like, well, of course I don't want to die. Nobody,
No, no,
rarely
yeah,
anyone's ready for that. Yeah.
yeah,
Miss
and I wish I had one with my mother. I remember when my grandmother had that, and we did not have a directive for her. And
Mhm.
I remember that they broke her bones in her chest,
Yeah.
and that was very traumatic for my mother. And I had to kind of step in and make a decision that I was not comfortable with. So I'm trying to spare my loved ones that program. So, and it is it's a very big discussion and a very I don't think anybody wants to let go of their loved ones, but sometimes it's the best. And so I guess it is a very big decision to make.
It's a hard decision.
Yeah.
And that's why I had an instructor once who always said that every time they got together for a holiday dinner, that's what they talked about at dinner. Um, but just like Thomas mentioned early, sometimes thoughts and feelings change, situations change.
Mm-hmm.
Miss Jennifer, do you have a question?
Yes, I've had a few heart attacks,
Hmm.
and I've had my the bones, the bruised. I've been in the ICU for a long time, and eventually, well, I have an advanced directive. I do
Hmm.
have that with Washington Hospital Center here in DC, and uh, it is very important to have that because if I didn't have it, I don't know what would have happened to with me because I was by myself
Yeah.
because I live alone, you know. Anyway, it's important to have the question I wanted to ask, yes. You're talking about a durable power of attorney and a durable will. Those are is the same, one and the same, or two different things?
Well, so a power of attorney, right? A basic power of attorney, you can download the form online. You can have a lawyer fill it out. Sometimes you can just get them notarized.
Okay.
Those usually do not include healthcare. Some of them do, but you have to read it. You have to be careful, right? And
Okay.
so sometimes people just assume, oh, it's everything. This person can make all decisions. A durable power of attorney is specifically for healthcare. Now, some forms include everything, right? So if your form includes everything, then it is technically the same thing. But a durable power of attorney usually um, alludes to the fact that it includes both finances and healthcare, if that answers your question.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah, I had to get what you call it, a pacemaker defibrillator put in. Yeah. I had all the stuff that went on, all the, the things on my chest. I didn't even know because when I woke up, they told me what happened.
Right.
Anyway, I just wanted you guys to know.
No, this is good. This is
Thank
real world
you.
experience. Miss Sharon, is that how you pronounce it?
It's Sharon. Can you hear me?
Sharon. Yes.
Wonderful. I'm calling in regards to my mother. We had gotten her a durable power of attorney, a regular POA, as well as a will drafted back.
Can't hear the question.
The
Yeah, we can't.
I was just giving some background, and that was back in 2008. Now that she is medically bedridden, has dementia, and is lung cancer, her medical directive at the time said that we were to keep her on life support for 30 days, right? But now that was back in 2008, almost 15, 16 years ago. Now that she's in this current condition with the dementia, she and I had discussed that we wouldn't do any life-saving measures. With me being there, would I be able to override that?
Are you the I apologize. Are you the named as the
power of attorney? Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
So another great point. So these documents, right, unfortunately or fortunately, are not deal breakers. Families, particularly the person who's named as the power of attorney or healthcare surrogate, whatever, has the right to honor or not honor those wishes. So I always say choose your decision maker wisely.
Okay.
So you absolutely have the right to say, listen, now that her medical condition has advanced to this, I don't think that this is appropriate. And usually most health systems, so let's say, God forbid, she ended up in some sort of situation where she was on life support, right? And you say, okay, this is not what she would have wanted. You have that right to say, I want her, we call it compassionate withdrawal of life support, meaning that a patient is given medications to feel like they're not suffering. The tubes are removed, and then we focus on them being comfortable for however long they have left, right? And that's different for everybody. Sometimes it's minutes, hours, days, few weeks. Usually, if you're that sick that you need machine support, you're not going to live many, many weeks and days.
Yeah.
But that you have that right, and they'll usually just sign some things that you're stating, I'm her decision maker, and I feel I am acting in her best interest, and I would like this done.
Okay, wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
That kind of brings me, Ms. Jennifer, I'll get back to you in a second, but that brings me to another question. So another reason why these documents are so important to have done now, early, and have them revised is because once someone has gotten to the point where they have advanced dementia or can't properly communicate their wishes, they cannot then designate a decision maker or make their wishes known,
Oh,
right?
shit.
Exactly. But so these forms are going under the assumption that you, the person who are making your wishes known, did so willingly. If you can't really participate, then that goes down a whole rabbit hole of partitioning the state for guardianship. That requires lawyers, judges, hearings. That's not something that happens quickly. So that's why these documents are extremely important to get done ahead of time while you are able to participate and make those choices, and it takes the burden off of your family member, right? Because it's you had it in writing. Those were your wishes. It's not someone imposing, feeling like they're imposing their will. It's something that you had said. Another point I'd like to make is if you name someone as your decision maker, you should let them know, which sounds obvious, but you'd be surprised the amount of people who name a friend or a distant loved one or someone else their decision maker, and that person had no clue, and some of them are not comfortable with it. So, so what happens if you don't have these papers, right? And something happens to you? Depending on how serious it is. So the first thing is the hospital staff has a due diligence to try and find your loved ones based on whatever the statutes say. And like I said, that's something I need to do more research on what the statutes in DC say. In Florida, it's, we need to find a loved one, your spouse. Fun fact, if you're married, and you've been living apart for many years, you don't consider yourself married, but you are never legally divorced, your spouse is still your legal decision maker. So if that's not a good idea, I highly suggest you get your advanced directives done ASAP. But so once we've got,
Amen to that.
what's that?
I said amen to that.
Yes, amen to that, right? Because there's a reason. If you're not living together for a reason, you don't want them making your decisions. But once the hospital has done their due diligence to try and find someone, if they can't find someone, or the people they have found has said, I don't want to make decisions, then it's up to the hospital staff. The hospital staff will then take it amongst themselves to try and make decisions. And every hospital is a little bit different on how they go about that. There's not a really good standard on how we decide to make decisions. Brenda.
Yes, Miss Stooks, let me ask you this. Now, my mom, we did a advanced directive, and we turned the paperwork into her primary care doctor, which was at Georgetown. But
Mhm.
at the time she got sick, we had to call an ambulance, and they took her to another hospital. So how does that work? Do the hospitals communicate? I mean,
You're
I don't know.
supposed to.
How do they, know that she has that document in place,
Yeah, they
to,
don't. Yeah. You would
okay,
think we should, right? Some hospital systems are better at communicating than others, but I always say guilty until proven innocent. So it's good for these providers to have copies. You always make sure you have a copy.
okay,
And I always say have a few. So you have your original, and then you have copies that you can give out so it doesn't get lost. So if something like
okay,
that happens, because the hospital staff should ask if you have advanced directives and ask what your
right,
wishes. Right. And then so the next question is, if you have them, then hey, can we have a copy?
right, okay. Well, we didn't do that. I mean,
And so,
yeah,
in that
yeah,
situation, you can always say, hey, this is her doctor. They have a copy, and they can call and say, hey, can you send it over? But it eliminates the middleman if you have a copy and you're
right,
able to
right.
present. Right. Mhm.
Well, I wish
Okay.
I had known that prior. Well, she's passed on, and she did have that in place, but they took her to a different facility, and
Mhm.
wasn't at her regular place. So
Right.
okay, all right. But I'll know for myself. When I do it, I'll have extra copies for my children.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Yeah.
that's a good
Okay.
idea.
Thank you, Ms. Dukes.
Thank you. Miss Louise?
Yeah, I was about to say that I had extra copies made, and when I went into the ambulance, I have my own copy with me. I also made a second person. It's like I am the main person, but I found I use another family member in case something happened to me before, so they would be the one if I'm not available. So I chose one brother as the second person in line. You know what I mean?
Well,
So
so technically, so you're talking about for yourself or for somebody else?
when I did for my mom,
Oh, yes, yes. You make a good
yes,
point. You
and I
should you
also
should
did
have a
that for
second.
myself.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a fantastic point. I mean, some people aren't as lucky as others to have that many trusted people in their life. But if you are blessed to have that many people in your life, you should pick a second surrogate because
Yeah,
then we don't know, right? What if the person who's your decision maker was riding in the car with you and you guys both got in a car accident? So then now who's making decisions? So it's
yeah,
always a very good idea to have an alternate. I've seen
yeah,
them where there's like a third and fourth choice.
yeah.
Mhm. Very, very good. Miss Thelma, Miss Thelma, you're
But
on.
unmute yourself, Miss Thelma.
Yeah.
Okay,
There-
thank you.
Mhm.
Like I said, I'd already had two serious incidents, and each time, it ended up being a serious operation right then and there. And I didn't have directed advance or directed, but my baby girl, who is a nurse, she knows that she's in charge of all my medical stuff. But her sister, her twin sister, them two, just them two, real. And that's what happened. And I was blessed when I cracked my spine because the doctors that came in, the specialist knew my oldest girl, and they communicate. And he told her, exactly what they need to do and what was the possibility. If they operate, I may not walk, I may not be able to sit up, that and that. And he discussed all that with the family, which eased a lot of pain. And the second time when I went, the whole family gathered, which was my 4 children, my baby brother, and all. So I have the people that have the knowledge. So I think I better get the advanced directive. Well, my doctor keep telling me to fill that form out online. But I want to end with this. If I fill it out, even in my house or whatever, take a snapshot, can I keep it on my phone too as an extra copy?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Because
And
I have
nowadays
my
that's
whole,
probably easier. You can send it through email. You know what I'm saying? Absolutely.
because under my phone number in my phone, if you hit my phone number, you get my whole medical record, my blood type and all.
Mhm.
That's already in my phone. So you say I can put that in my phone.
Yes. Yes, you
Okay.
can.
Okay. That's what I want to know. Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Miss Sherilyn, you excuse me, you had a question?
Yeah, hi. Yeah, I think I'm unmuted. Hi, Ms. Dukes. Thank you so much for this valuable information today. But listen, where do I get a blank copy of the directive?
Oh, there you go. You read my mind. So
Oh.
I will share the website links with Miss Teresa, but
Okay.
you can get them from your doctor, right?
Okay.
You can get them from any hospital.
Okay.
And there are a plethora online. In fact, this one, which one? Here you go. The Department of Health for
Yep.
DC. You can
Okay.
get
Okay.
them right online. Yep.
Right online. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you so much for that.
You're welcome. No problem.
Should we have one attached to our original will too?
You can. Those again, original wills usually
Don't need
are
that.
going to worry about financials,
They
not
have
so
Well,
much.
mine has my medical too, and I'm wondering if
Okay.
if I have a directive, should I attach that with my will?
I have a
Okay.
copy into my
Yeah.
folder.
Oh, okay. So you advise that you do that?
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
This has been so informative, and and God bless you for doing this. I
Oh,
appreciate
no
it.
problem. This is something very dear to my heart. So we talked a little bit about what it is, what it looks like. In DC, some of the major terminology would be, we said durable power of attorney, um, advanced directive, living will. There's something called a POLST, sorry, POLST, or MOST, MOSLT. Those are, it's basically, it stands for physician order for sustaining life support or medical order. That's another fancy way for saying a living will. It'll go through the same thing. A physician will sign it, and it tells if you want to be put on life support or not, what you would want your comfort care to look like. A big hot topic is artificial nutrition and hydration. So sometimes it's not always are we dying or not dying. But when we're talking about decisions towards end of life, we also frequently talk about artificial feeding and hydration, and that's a hot topic, right? Because in any culture across the world, food is life, food is love, right? Who doesn't like a good dinner? So people always have strong feelings about if a person for one reason or another can no longer eat naturally, about giving them artificial feeding. I will just briefly say that's something that should be put in writing how you feel about it. If someone is approaching end of life, they're not really able to feed themselves anymore, they can't swallow anymore. Um, an artificial feeding is not necessarily going to cure things. It's not going to fix anything. Yes, I won't lie. Obviously, without nutrition for sustained amount of time, you would pass away. But usually, if someone's that sick, they're not dying of hunger like you or I. I always say, think of it. If you've ever been in bed, sick with the flu, like really sick, the last thing you cared about was eating, right? So it's kind of the same thing.
It's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah, you didn't care about dinner. You just wanted to rest. So it's kind of the same thing. But that's those are some things that are usually included in almost every kind of living will. Um, there's also a vague topic in some living wills that say if I have a terminal or end stage disease. That's debatable, right? And so this is why I always say you should maybe have something that's a little bit more clear about what you think and feel, because um, heart failure can be an end stage disease. COPD can be an end stage disease. Cancer can be a terminal or end stage disease. It depends on where you are on that. Dementia is an end stage disease. Parkinson's can be an end stage disease. It just
Kidney
depends on
disease.
right. All of those can be an end stage disease. So, sometimes when I'm presented with family members and they say, oh, well, they said that they said, well, we're here. So now you have to make the decision. That's why we start talking about quantity of life and quality of life. Meaning, some people say, I don't care what my life looks like. I just want to be here for X number of days. I can be hooked up to every machine, laying in the bed, whatever. And some people say, listen, if I can't interact with my family, if I can't be in my bed, if I can't have my dinner, if I can't watch the show I want to watch, I don't know that I'm really living life. So that's where things, some of the nuances of advanced directives start falling in, and these things always should be considered when you're discussing it. I always say when we're filling out advanced directives, this is considering what you want your quality of life to be in the instance of a unforeseeable or maybe a foreseeable emergency or ongoing decline. Like I said before, we're all gonna die, right? But if you have the chance to kind of know what that journey may look like a little bit, that's a blessing. Think of how many people don't have that opportunity, and they die in ways that are just not what they would have envisioned for themselves. A pastor I worked with in the hospital used to say, you know, we when a storm is coming, a big storm, we're in Florida, so when a hurricane is coming, we pray, right, that it's not going to hit us, but we prepare for the storm just in case. And that's what these documents are. Yes, Miss Louise. You're on mute, my dear. There you
I
go.
was going to say something. When in 2021, when my mom passed, the hospital called me, even though I had the directive in place, and they say, we just want to be sure he has an infected gallbladder. Do you want us to do surgery or put a tube in to drain it? I say, absolutely not. Not when you're 102. Wow. So they say, well, we just want to be sure. I say, I'm sure. I don't want any tubes, leave her alone. And so
Yeah.
they did. Yes. So sometimes it depends, you know, they still check with you.
Yes, absolutely. They absolutely will still check. Because like I said, these aren't written in stone, right?
Right.
They're so you can change your mind at any time and change it back. So that's why they'll have them, but they'll always ask. I think I don't want to say a time where they won't ask, but in the events of like some sort of traumatic injury where the hospital staff knows that it's not survivable, we'll usually we still ask, right? But we will usually say, hey, if we have this document, they said this, and we're at that point now. So it's time, you know, it is time to let them go. These are all fantastic points that everyone is bringing up. That makes me very happy to hear that the majority of you have thought about them or even have them in place. So I would next challenge you to make sure that they're up to date, that the people involved in them know about them and know where they are, right?
Where
Because
they are. Yeah.
if you can't talk to me, it doesn't help us if it's in the safe, and that they're accessible, right?
After his sunscreen, but Jan said she
Does anyone else have any other questions?
There's a chat that needs to be addressed, and it reads, hello, what is a healthcare?
Is it the yellow? Oh, no. Is it, you put it up there?
What
Who
is
is
a
a
healthcare agent?
Okay, so a healthcare agent is essentially the same thing as what we call a surrogate or a proxy. Each state likes to make the term a little bit different. This is the person that you have designated to make decisions for you if you are deemed incapacitated. And that means you come in and you're passed out, or from some sort of mental illness, be it like dementia, or you're delirious because you're so sick, you're either not talking to us or you're not making any sense and you can't process what we're saying to you, then your healthcare agent would be the one to make decisions for you. Yes, about funeral preferences, absolutely. There is a very nice document, and especially if anyone is involved with hospice, it is called 5 Wishes. I'm looking, I may have one close by. It's a booklet actually, and it talks about, it breaks down some of these advanced things we were talking about, like hydration. What if I were in a coma? What would I want? It breaks it down into nice, easy language, and it makes it easy to discuss with family members, and it gives it a place for you to write in what you would want. I distinctly remember I had a patient write in that if they were in a coma, they wanted a certain song played at a certain time every day. And we were able to do that for him. And it sounds trivial, right? But I think that all of these things offer comfort in a time and place that's not comfortable, right? So yes, advanced directives can even include what happens after, right? What preferences that you would want afterwards. So those are great points. So let's recap, right? Everyone here should have an advanced directive. important points in your advance directive is who makes decisions for you if you can't. Ideally, the backup to that person. Those people should know that they're your decision makers, and they should agree and honor with your wishes. Okay. I want to empower you to say it's okay to have someone who's not a blood relative as your, even if you have a plethora of family, it's okay to not have a family member if you feel like your family members wouldn't honor what you want. Please remember that, right? Make sure that the person knows they're your decision maker and that they will honor your wishes. Okay. You should have your wishes clearly lined out, what you are and are not okay with. And you should have multiple copies of this, and your primary care and your hospital that you visit the most should have it. And anytime you go to a new provider, you should provide it to them. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Right. If you
sounds good.
Yeah, if you've had one and it's it's double digits years old, I would challenge you to bring it out and look at it, read it again, right? Because we were different people last year, let alone 10 years ago, 5 years ago, right? So maybe there might be some things in there or some wording that you think maybe aren't as clear now as you want, or maybe your circumstances have changed and you want to tweak it a little bit. It's always the most recent advanced directive that will be honored, right? Not the original one. So, and anytime you make changes to it, make sure the important people who are involved, who will be making those decisions, know what those changes are.
In my hand.
If any of you ever get pushback from your decision maker, right? This is something I hear a lot. Oh, I don't want to talk about that. That's not going to happen. That's going to happen way in the future. Oh, maybe change it to, hey, this is for you. I'm doing this for you. This is a gift for you. Because if anything happens, you don't have to worry. There's no worry for you. This all in writing. You know what I want. You know what instructions I'm giving, and you can take comfort in knowing that I was the one to tell you these things. Because for those of you who've been in that situation, for those who have not, it's very difficult to be in a situation where you have to make traumatic choices and have no clue what that person would want, right? So, any other questions? Any questions at all? I hope everyone was taking notes.
I have my hand up, Wilmertine Lawson.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
I can see by the flowers. I'm sorry.
That's all right. I just came in about 20 minutes ago. I want to know, can I make a copy of this? How did we get this information? Because I came in late.
Oh, this? Yes. So I had a PowerPoint and my PowerPoint application crashed. So I wasn't able to share it, but I will get the PowerPoint to Miss Teresa so that you guys can have it. It'll have some of the websites that I showed that we talked about where you can find information on advanced directives. You can, yes, you can absolutely make copies of the document if that's what you're asking, and where you can get documents, doctor's office, hospitals, and you can absolutely get them.
That's what they mean when they say get documents for a living will. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, they want it in paper, right? Because you saying, oh, so and so makes my decisions. That's nice, but if it's not in paper, it didn't happen.
Yep. Okay, the next time when I go to my primary care doctor, would I be able to get one when I go there?
They absolutely should have blank copies for you. Yep.
Okay, I'm gonna ask. Okay. So I can, because I've been not paying attention to some things,
it's
time to pay attention,
Yes, ma'am.
It kind of frightens you. That's why you don't want to pay. And I don't want to get
I need to be ready. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a fun topic, but think of it this way. You wear your seatbelt when you go in the car, right? I hope so.
Yeah.
Okay. Nobody wants to get in a car crash, but we prepare.
No, but it does happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so I will look into getting that living will paper. I think I've had a couple of them, but I don't know where they are. So I better get another one.
Yes, me.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
We've got a
Miss
couple hands raised for the few minutes that are left.
Yeah. Miss
Timothy
Patricia?
and Patricia, yeah.
Yeah, we have Patricia. So please unmute yourself. You can hit unmute in the middle.
Can I ask you this question?
Sure.
Can a proxy someone can someone else cash a check on my behalf like a proxy? Is that true?
I'm sorry, I don't think I understand. You're saying can someone else check on you?
I'm
What do you mean?
talking about if you need a proxy of son, you get sick or something, you go in the hospital, can a proxy, if you write out a check to make a payment or something, can a proxy do that?
So this what we're talking about.
I'm talking
is
about
only
on your
healthcare.
behalf. I'm talking about on your healthcare on your behalf, right?
Nope. So this only affects healthcare. In fact, okay, that's actually a good point. So
Okay.
let's say you have this document, you're sick, you're in the hospital, you need them
Mhm.
to pay your bills. The bank
Mhm.
does not care.
Oh,
Absolutely
they
not.
don't
Nope.
do that.
So
They
that's why
don't.
you do need to have, it's good for everyone to have a healthcare proxy, or excuse me, power of attorney
Okay, so a
for
health proxy
finances.
is
Yeah.
only good for
And
your health, but not to
only
help
good for your
you.
health.
But
Yep.
just for in the hospital, but it's not good to help you do that, right?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay.
You're welcome.
Mhm.
That was a good
Mhm.
question.
Morgan.
To her point, I would just want to say to her point, you can also go to your bank and add a beneficiary. So that way,
Yes.
in the event that you become incapacitated, that the person that you want to handle your finances is already on the
Can't
account.
hear that.
So she was saying that you can go to your bank and add a beneficiary, which is a very good idea to your account, so that person can handle your finances if you're incapacitated. Because this document will
I did
not
that.
allow it. Mm-hmm.
And I found out that you have a power of attorney and it's written down in your will. You have a power of attorney and your will are two different things and they should be combined. And AARP will help you with that for free.
Yes. Very good.
Okay. All right. And with the paying of the bills, though, I have my son down on mine, but I had to take him into the bank with me. We had to sign the papers together.
Yeah.
So don't go in there and just do it on your own. Take that person with you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That brings us, we have any more questions before we go into the polling?
Yeah, I might read it like sheet music. I'm like, how do you read that?
Yeah.
I just have a statement. I thank you so much for providing this to us, Ms. Teresa. This was very informative.
Yes. Hello. I wanted to ask you a question. I heard you say something about you wanted to make sure everything was up to date. What do you mean, like? Because once you sign everything, you don't need to renew it, do you?
You do not need to renew it. But what I meant was, let's say you did this 10, 15 years ago. Your health has changed. The person you want to make decisions, maybe you don't want them to make it anymore. I would always tell you to personally review it to make sure you're still happy with it. Or if you want to then make changes, then you make changes.
Yeah, update.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. Got you.
Right, an addendum.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So we have one more question, and that would be Lorraine. Go ahead, Lorraine, and then we're going to thank Mrs. Dukes for. Go ahead, Lorraine, unmute.
Hit unmute in the middle, Miss Lorraine.
Yes, I will listen to the program. It's very helpful. I went to ARP, and I have a will for my medical and one for my financial. So, do I need to add anything else to those two documents, or those are efficient?
If you're happy, excuse me, with the choices that you've made there, that's good. You have one for your financials. You have one for your health care.
Medical. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I think the only suggestion I would make someone else mention was maybe the beneficiary at the bank. The banks, you'd be surprised, give you such a hard time about who can do and do what, and rightfully so. They're trying.
Yeah.
They're trying to
Well,
protect
I
your
mean,
money.
I had something at the bank, but I like in my will, I just have the same person for my financial that I have at the bank, along with my sister, and then I have two of my sisters that's in charge of my medical decision. So I just wanted to know, do I need to add anything else to those 2 documents that I have in place?
So without seeing the documents, it sounds like you have everything that you need. Honestly,
Right.
I just make sure that those people know that they're your people and they know where those documents are.
Oh yeah, they're aware because I have, like you were saying, I have the original, and what I did, I made a copies to all my siblings so they will have on hand.
Good. That's good.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Lorraine. And let's all give Mrs. Dukes a wonderful thanks and appreciation.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you, Ms.
so
Dukes. Thank you
much.
so much. It was
Thank you.
wonderful.
Thank you.
hopefully we'll have her
Thank
back
you.
again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, we'll have her back again because she has so many interesting topics that she
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
would
Thank
love
you.
to share with with our group, the senior group.
Yeah.
Okay.